So welcome back everyone to another kickback. Back again, 10th week. Well, we had a little gap, but we are back for the second week running. We've got some interesting topics for you guys today. But first, we're going to introduce who we've got with us today. We've got Nick. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah.
We also have Lewis back with us again, as normal.
Hello. You sounded very disappointed when you said
no.
As normal.
No, it might have come across that way. Yeah. But we also have another guest. We've got our most physically packed podcast. So who else have we got with us today? If you just want to introduce yourself quickly.
So just naming.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go for it.
My name's Muse, United fan.
Yeah.
Just here to talk a bit about
Smart man.
some of the awful football we've seen this season, really.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think that's fair to say. We're having quite a Manchester United themed podcast today. We're going to be going into our first topic in just a moment, but we'll let you know what we're doing later on as well. So we will be doing a transfer window waffle on Manchester United at the end of today, and also followed up by fan questions. We have a few questions from Instagram which we need to answer as well. So as ever, with any feedback, do get to us. Just remember that our email address is kickbacksportspod@gmail.com, and then you can find us kickback_pod on Instagram and Twitter, and we'll have our Facebook as well for you in the description and by the side of your screen. So the first player is an interesting one. I'm going to hand over to Nick for this guy. He is much loved by some people, hated in other quarters, quite rightly. Bit of a controversial figure. So if you'd like to take it away, go for it.
Right, yeah. So obviously we're talking about players who have, achieved a lot over their careers.
I literally didn't even say what we were doing.
I'll do that, George. Don't worry. I'll do your job. Don't worry about
Cheers. Go for it.
So it's players who have probably been paid too much for what they've done, and mine's probably not very fair, considering that the guy's been very successful. But to the back end of his career, he has earned a lot more money than he should have. So the player we're looking at is Emmanuel Adebayor. What I will say about Adebayor, the first 10 years of his career, he obviously had loads of success. He had a controversial move to Man City, costing around 25 mil. But from there, he was the biggest earner at both clubs. So Man City were, would you say they're in their transition phase when they signed Adebayor?
Yeah, I'd say probably. Yeah, they're sort of in that period where they still had a few players kicking around from the previous era, like the pre-oil money era, but they still had started making some big signings as well. So yeah, I'd say they're kind of in that transition period.
So what I would say, they signed Adebayor, and they needed to lure him away from Arsenal. So
yeah,
the easy way to do that was to offer him a lot of money, and from there he's gone on. He didn't have much success at Real Madrid. I remember he scored a goal in the Champions League against one of the English clubs. It might have been Tottenham one season. And then he ended up at Tottenham, Crystal Palace, and now he's playing in Turkey for Istanbul, Başakşehir. So as I said previously, it might be a bit unfair with this one, because is he worthy of the money he's earning now? Probably not. But in his earlier years, he was a real asset to each team. And I remember that goal he scored against Tottenham.
Yeah,
the volley. Do you remember the volley early in the season?
Yeah,
he's a really capable player. And as a Liverpool fan, watching him go to all these London clubs, Palace, Arsenal, Tottenham, he's obviously got no kind of commitment to any club. He's quite clear.
No, not really. It didn't seem to.
A modern day traitor, we'll call him. But yeah, he's now at Başakşehir. Just before he's at Başakşehir, he's at Crystal Palace. He was on £165,000 a week at Crystal Palace.
No,
the only way Palace could afford him was that Tottenham actually said, you know what, we're that desperate to get rid of him, we'll pay 100,000 of it. And Palace actually took the rest of the 65,000. Even the 65,000, he was Palace's second highest player, ignoring 100,000 that Tottenham already paid.
Wow.
So he is a modern day example of probably where the game's gone wrong, in the sense that players are getting paid far too much money, especially to the back ends of their careers. And I think there's ample opportunity now for players to go abroad, go to China, go to
Yeah,
even Australia.
100%.
There's a lot of players now going to Australia. I mean, I think of Adam Lafondra. He's probably getting double the money he was getting at Reading. So I think Adebayor is a very opportunistic footballer. He takes chances. He's moved to a country where we know politically is very unstable. We know racism's a massive issue in Turkey.
Definitely.
Clearly doesn't faze him. Because he's moved there. He's the highest paid player at the club. This isn't a club who have no players. They have a lot of big players.
They got Robinho now.
Clichy, Arda Turan. They've got. I remember on Twitter recently, Footy Akams, who's obviously a page we're all quite familiar with, they put a list of all the players up that they've signed in the past year.
Yeah.
And I quote tweeted and I said, "Imagine the wage bill." I don't know how this club is still.
No, it's a strange
moving forward. It is strange. I don't know how they're affording these players because none of them are young. They're all 32 to 36-year-old players.
Yeah.
And they're all earning in excess of £90,000 to £150,000 a week.
Mm.
So, Adebayor is a player who, he takes opportunities. He will try his best to maximise as much money as he can in a short spell. He's obviously been at four clubs in 5 years.
Yeah.
So he definitely is a player who follows the money. But I don't know what you think. Maybe I'm being a bit unfair, but. Yeah, I think he's a perfect example of where football probably has gone wrong in terms of finances and the money available to players in the current market.
Yeah. What do you guys think about Adebayor? Do you think that's a fair sort of judgment of him, or do you think it's a little bit disrespectful to his career in the Premier League? I mean, he had some obviously some great years at Arsenal. He had some decent spells at Manchester City and Spurs as well. I remember under Tim Sherwood getting a little bit of a renaissance. What do you guys think, Muse? What do you think about Adebayor?
I think, as you've both said, he had a great early career. To be fair, he was quite a big player, big game player, scored important goals.
Yeah, definitely.
He was very talented as well. I don't think it's taken into account how good of a player he actually was, but there is a point saying like now he's getting on a bit, and he is earning more than he should. 165,000 at Palace is a joke, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm surprised as well.
What he's done for them.
I don't get how because Spurs are like notoriously quite a tight club. I don't know why they were willing to pay that. I mean, they could have probably shunted him off to China or something.
True.
And he would have had like the same sort of wage.
Spurs were in that. I think we talk about the Man City transitional phase. I think Tottenham were when they had that mad year when they signed, Lamella and.
Was this like the Soldado?
Kirikez.
That's after they got rid of Bale, wasn't it? So
That's
they had the Bale money.
They just didn't know what to do with their money.
Fazio, players like that.
I remember they just spent so many players and put so much money on these players.
Yeah.
And obviously it didn't work out. I think they had on Villas-Boas.
Right. I forget about him.
Then
completely.
they had Sherwood, who did really well. And then obviously Pochettino took over. So I think maybe the identity of Tottenham now is not the one when Adebayor went there. I think the club's moved into they've got the new stadium as well.
I think they've got a unique, like a very interesting identity now, Tottenham.
100%. It's not the identity that Adebayor, because he wouldn't get in there, would he? The sort of player that he is, with the money demands that he's asking for. It's not
a club. They're not really a club that would deal with those sort of egos, I don't think.
But then you look at Lucas Moura. I think he'd be on probably a lot more money than you think. He's definitely. You remember where he's coming from? He's coming from PSG.
Same thing with Serge Aurier. I think he's known to have a little bit of arrogance about him, and has been a bit of a troublemaker in the past. So he's another player who maybe doesn't fit in with that Spurs kind of identity nowadays. Lewis, what do you think about Adebayor? Do you think he gets enough praise for his time in the Prem, or do you think he is? Can I just say, I'll just basically what the whole premise of today is that we're looking at players who've stolen a living, players who have been on monumental wages and haven't necessarily deserved them. As I forgot to mention that at the start, so I just thought I'd give you a little bit of a clarification. So Lewis, what do you think about Adebayor? Do you think he should be on this podcast, on this list?
Well, considering what he was on at Palace, I would say so. And I didn't really see him much during the start of his career, but what it seems like to me is he probably thinks that because of how much the wages have gone up, like how much players are getting played, he might think that because he was good before, he deserves these wages because of how good he's been.
I think there is this kind of thing where once players are given, you sort of see it a little bit with Gareth Bale now, where he obviously is on stupid wages over at Real Madrid, constantly injured, not really providing, not really justifying whether it's his fault or not, because obviously Zidane's not really including him in his plans, but he's not really justifying his wage. But then you see like what club is going to be willing to pay him the same sort of wages, and you know, players nowadays, obviously because it's so money driven, you don't really want to accept a contract where you have to take a wage cut or anything. So I think due to this, I think we might come across more players like this who are kind of just bench warming on a ridiculous amount. Who's your player then, Lewis? I think Adebayor actually, yeah, is a perfect shout.
Okay, this might be a controversial one.
Yeah,
but mine is more to do with how he stayed at like the level he did for so long. Because off what I've seen of this guy, I don't understand how he did, but it's Emil Heskey.
I think that's fair enough.
Yeah,
I think I can get where you're coming from with that because of his statistics. I think we looked at them. I think just before the podcast, before we recorded last week's podcast, we looked at the Emil Heskey's stats just out of curiosity, and they are like not really very good. Like we'd probably expect that, but like
yeah, and he's a bit like Adebayor. Probably, obviously not as good, but at the start of his career, he actually had a pretty decent run, like with a couple of teams.
Leicester and Liverpool.
Leicester and Liverpool, and obviously with Liverpool, he won a few trophies as well. But to be honest, I think his best run was at Liverpool.
Yeah,
he got 223 games, and he did only score 60 goals, but I wouldn't say that's too bad.
He wasn't necessarily a nailed-on like starting striker, I don't think, especially not from when he joined from Leicester. But yeah, he was one of those players that kind of lived off the hype that he'd had in the early part of his career and kind of just managed to forge a career off the back of that. That's the way that I kind of see him. I think. Am I right in saying that he went to Australia?
Yeah,
this could be an example. This is a good link with the Australian.
Yeah, and I did actually find that I think he was on about 7 million Australian euros a year, which I think is about 4 million a year.
£4 million, yeah.
Yeah, which I'd say for him is probably overpaying him because I think that would be close to about 65,000-70,000 a week, and this was 7 years ago. So what you've got to remember is then I'd say that is a lot of money to put him on.
Yeah, that is quite a lot. Does anyone have any positive or negative memories of Emil Heskey? Nick, I know that obviously you're a Liverpool fan and you kind of grew up during that era where Heskey and Owen and players like that were at the forefront of their attack. What are your feelings towards Heskey? Do you have fond memories of him?
And they did pay 14.85 million for him, which I think in 2000 probably would have been quite a big transfer fee.
Yeah, so I think, are we all England international fans around here?
Yeah.
Did Heskey not score in that 5-1?
He did,
away
didn't he?
Germany.
Yes.
Yeah, and
so, we're being a bit unfair there. I think
Heskey scored in a 5-1 win.
Give us one of our greatest international days in history. So I fully understand it, like growing up around Villa fans, obviously growing up, and Heskey, while he was, he's towards the end of his career, he wasn't a goal scorer. His records show that he must have scored 10 or 12 goals for Villa, whatever it was.
I
remember he scored in his debut for
14
Portsmouth away, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did. I think he did score in his debut. Yeah, I
think Heskey's one of those players that I say to everyone, like when everyone says, "Oh, you're as bad as Heskey," I think it's a bit unfair because I think Heskey, in his days at Liverpool, all I'll say to you, if you've got a spare, 5 minutes, watch Heskey against Derby for Liverpool. He scored a hat trick.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was the perfect hat trick, a header, left foot, right foot. You won't find any better hat tricks in history than that one.
What about Gabby Agbonlahor? He also scored a perfect hat trick like that.
Yeah, he did.
Once upon a time.
I remember when he scored at Old Trafford as well. Another player, probably. People were on his back all the time in Bonlahor, but Heskey is one of those players. I remember when England played Algeria in the 0-0 at the World Cup, and all the England. I remember Rooney shouted something at the camera at the end.
Yeah.
Heskey was England's best player in that game. He held the ball up.
That's a fair point.
And he created chances. And while he's not probably the player everyone thinks he is, and he probably was overpaid, but what I would say about Heskey is he scored goals in the early part of his career, and he didn't go for monstrous money. I mean, 14.85 million. Didn't Buffon go for 25, 30 million as a goalkeeper around that time?
I think so, yeah.
So
early noughties, yeah.
Yeah, so I would say Heskey maybe does get a bad rap, and Villa, the Villa fans are just overly fickle about him, to be honest.
But that Buffon fee, wasn't that a world record fee for a goalkeeper?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I was just checking. But I think the thing is with Heskey, once he left Liverpool, he didn't really do much else. And what I'm saying is I don't really understand why he stayed in the Premier League.
How did he do at Wigan? He was at Wigan, wasn't he? But I can't remember how well he did, because I feel like...
I think he was a bit time player. I don't know.
Yeah.
He started, but he wasn't like the goal scorer. Like, he had players next to him who would score.
Yeah. I can't think who Wigan would have had. Was that the sort of Jason Roberts era?
Yeah, it would have been around then.
That kind of time. And then I remember him, obviously, as he said, he was at Villa, and he has a very poor goal scoring record there. But yeah, I think, and also at Birmingham City as well.
Do you know who signed him at Villa? Would it have been O'Neill?
I think it was O'Neill. It would have been. Yeah, because it was post David O'Leary.
2009 to 2012.
Yeah, that was Martin O'Neill.
And he was released from Villa as well.
Yeah, because I remember last seeing him at Bolton, I think.
Yeah, he was at Bolton for 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't think we should talk about that.
Probably.
His record
the less said about Bolton nowadays, probably the better. Like, I don't think even Bolton fans want to talk about Bolton anymore. So
I don't know we'll want to talk about Heskey either.
Fair point. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm not... Obviously, he has become, since like the whole YouTube thing, like KSI and everything, obviously he became a bit of like a figure to laugh at, a bit of a meme back in the day. But
I think that was because that was towards the end of his career as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Like Nick said.
Yeah, and I think he does get a bad rap. He does get an unfair treatment because, he was a relatively reliable player. Like, when he scored the odd goal here and there, like, he was useful at times. Probably wasn't deserved of a place in some of the teams that he played for, but he had a decent career, and also there are many strikers who played in the Premier League who have been a damn sight worse than him. Just think of Afonso Alves, people like that, Nicholas Bentner. So yeah, I mean, I think it is unfair, but at the same time, I can completely understand why you'd say that he'd stolen a living, because to stay in the top flight for that long and have such a poor goal scoring record is quite impressive. Another player I've just thought of is actually Victor Anichebe as well. He could equally be. He's a similar sort of player, I feel, but he didn't have that same explosive start to his career. He just has kind of been like
little side story,
very mediocre for his entire career.
About Victor Anichebe, bit off topic.
Here we go.
You
I like
have a few of these, don't you?
Anecdotes,
We should have a segment story time with Nick.
We should.
Mm-hmm.
Victor Anichebe is owed £20,000 by Stefan Sessegnon when they played together at West Brom, and a few months ago on Twitter, he put a plea out to Stefan Sessegnon to come forward and pay his money.
What was that for? Do you know why?
No, there's nothing come out about it, but do you not think that's just crazy?
It's a bit
a modern day footballer can owe another one money.
Yeah,
like they can't
strange.
afford. Like, oh mate, I'll pay you next week. It's just never happened. So
it's like, firstly, why would you be that desperate to get that money? Because you don't really need it. But secondly, if you've got, like, just pay it to him.
There you go.
Just stop the controversy before it starts.
That's a decent random story. To be fair, this story time segment could actually be a decent replacement for Transfer Window Waffle. Now that we're going into the window, so I think
he's got to think of some now.
Yeah,
no pressure.
No. Who should we go on to next then? Do you think? Muse, do you want to go next with your selection of Man United players? So yeah, we're going to have a quick delve into the first sort of Manchester United driven part of the podcast.
Ooh.
Obviously, we're doing Transfer Window Waffle on United later, but we have a few players who could be worthy of being on this list first of all.
Yeah, with United. So you guys have looked at more players who have stolen a living over a prolonged period of time.
Yeah.
I'm just looking more... Maybe I'd say the last 2 seasons within the United squad. So I've picked out Paul Pogba, Alexis Sanchez.
Sanchez, 100%, yeah.
I'd say Lukaku not so much over 2 seasons, maybe mostly this season.
Yeah, because in his first season, I think
he wasn't like bad at all.
27 goals or something like that.
Yeah, and Fred also, who we just signed.
Definitely Fred.
Last season, and I think he was one of the worst midfielders in the league, in my opinion. But I've looked more into Sanchez just because of the crazy money he's on at the minute.
Yeah, isn't it like 400 grand a week or something?
Something like that for his base salary.
And he's on the bench most weeks, isn't he?
So with Sanchez, he's played 31 Premier League games for United. And we've got 11 players in our squad who've played more than him. So thinking of the money he's on and only making 31 Premier League appearances in the last 18 months to 2 years.
That's incredible.
He's also the 12th man in terms of minutes played. So he's played 1,869 minutes in the Premier League for us, with another 11 playing more in our squad. Sanchez is the worst in the Champions League, so he's played the least.
Yeah.
He's only played 13 games in Europe for United, which I find amazing, because a player like him, really, we've signed him for the
big games.
For the big games, and Europe is the biggest stage of them all. And for him not to be played, it's a shame in a way, really, because
he was a very good player at Arsenal.
He was amazing. I was so excited when we signed him.
Same.
Beat City to signing him. I thought this is going to be one of our best players ever to wear a United shirt, and how he's turned out. He's completed 90 minutes just once this season in all competitions, and that was the opening game of the league.
That's ridiculous.
Which, when you think about it, for someone on his money, he's given 75,000 in bonuses for every first team start, so £75,000 just for a start. He's earned something like 2.25 million for being named, for being on the bench most regularly. His bonuses are also ridiculous, something like 300. So he's on a 391,000 basic salary. So he's. Before bonuses, he earns 25.8 million a year. Yeah. And that's just his basic salary without his bonuses included.
That's pretty incredible.
That's probably why they don't play him.
Yeah.
Because they don't activate those bonuses.
The fact he doesn't play and he's on such crazy money, it's just it's a waste of money, really. United, what we should be looking to do is getting rid of him as soon as we can.
I think so. It's one of those things as well where, especially... This is especially kind of prevalent with the Alexis Sanchez situation, is that it completely demotivates the other players around him as well. Because if you look at a player like Alexis Sanchez on those wages, with those sort of figures in his contract in terms of his bonuses as well on top of that, and then you look at what he's providing on the field compared to what you're providing, and you think, I should be on that money. This is ridiculous. This is why... people like David De Gea, there's been reports. More money. There's been reports that he's turning down contracts. Obviously, his contract's up next summer, I think. There's rumours that PSG are trying to hold out to get him on a free next summer. And, maybe he might well do that. But, Alexis Sanchez is the epitome of that player who's kind of... it just must be so demotivating to the other players to see, obviously they're on a stupid amount of money themselves, a lot of them. But to see this one guy so far ahead of them and not really doing anything on the field, rather, must be pretty depressing to look at for them.
Yeah, it must.
I think what I'll say about it, I think as two United fans here, I think it hasn't gone down well that they've put Solskjaer straight on a £7 million contract either.
No, so I completely agree with that.
Yeah. United are in a transition phase at the moment where they've got to bring in a lot of players. They need to be level-headed about everything. Going and putting a manager who has got Cardiff relegated and he's won a league title with Mould in Norway and £7 million. I
was going to say, hasn't he won 3?
I understand players go to players, like John Terry at Chelsea, Gerrard at Liverpool, Frank Lampard at Chelsea. Just because they were good players doesn't mean they're going to be good managers.
It's that thing. It's
I see what you mean.
Solskjaer hasn't really done anything to prove that tactically he is a good manager. Not even just at that level, just generally, really, because getting Cardiff relegated, obviously, and then being at Molde in Norway, that's not a good way to judge a manager. I get that bringing back, a club legend does kind of really motivate the players, changes their mindset, and positivity comes in.
I think it did for a few games.
It definitely did. It seemed to me as soon as it was announced that it was a permanent deal, everything just started spiralling. Obviously they've lost against Cardiff now. There's some other big losses as well.
Draw with Huddersfield.
There was a Huddersfield game, and I think it was just ridiculously premature. They didn't need to appoint him on a permanent basis at that stage. Just wait till the end of the season
and see how he does.
Yeah, exactly. See if any managers leave their clubs. Obviously, Allegri's leaving Juventus. There might well be some other managers available. Conte's still available. Pochettino, maybe there's still some way of getting him out of Spurs. Why give Solskjaer that job on a permanent basis? It's
Ask the question,
crazy.
like, when the manager's on that amount, like, obviously Klopp's on 7.5,
Yeah,
Unai Emery's on 5, and Unai Emery's a serial winner. He's won 3 Europa Leagues in 5 years.
that's spot on.
He's a guy who's proven it. At Sevilla he's done well. Obviously he might not have had a great season at Arsenal, but he's in another Europa League final. So what I would say, if you're going to if the club wants to move away from obviously Sanchez being on this high amount, why then go and put a manager on 7 million straight away who's not proven? Because then what does that do? It sets a precedent for the rest of the
100%.
club. So I think that's a real bad bit of work by United, but with Solskjaer. They should have put him on a low plan, on a rolling contract.
Definitely.
Because you'll probably find next season with the first manager who's sacked, if you don't work out.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and I think we should have put him on less money, but put him on like a 2-year kind of prove it deal.
What contract did he sign, do you know?
No, I'm not sure about
Was it a
his
3-year or 2-year?
I think it was multiple. I don't think it was like a 5-year contract. I think it might have been 2 or 3, something like that.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it was 2 or 3. I can't quite remember which one. But yeah, what were the other players you were touching on for Man United then? Pogba, Fred as well. I think
Fred.
there's some really good shouts in there.
Yeah,
I want to say I haven't really heard much from Fred ever since he signed.
I think Fred's one of our worst signings ever,
And
to
like-
be honest.
And it's like, what was it 50?
58
high
million. I think,
50
something
million,
like that.
yeah.
Nah, that's
And I don't think I think he was worth
Horrible.
like half of that as well. Like, we so overpaid for him. I think the main problem is we don't have our manager dealing with the transfers. It's Ed Woodward.
You've got a
Really.
business-minded,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's just
person.
going to
knows nothing about football at
he's
all.
just going to chuck money at everything, and that's why I didn't really want Mourinho to go, because I knew that it wasn't real. I don't think you can put all the blame on Mourinho
No, I don't think
when
so.
he left, because I was just thinking, like, the transfers that were coming through, I was thinking, this doesn't sound like Mourinho. This doesn't sound like he's making these decisions. So I think if we did give Mourinho more say in the transfers, I think it would have gone a lot differently. And what you've got to remember is he did come in second that 1 year as well.
Yeah,
so
true.
I haven't.
I don't know how, but yeah, he did.
I didn't really agree with the sacking of him. So when Solskjaer came in, I was a bit nervy, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just due to the tension that had risen. I think it was the time for Mourinho to go, but I don't think there was any necessity for Solskjaer to be announced permanently. This is the thing, and I think, yeah, I don't know. Would you trust Solskjaer with a £200 million transfer budget? Because that's what it's been touted for. Obviously, we'll touch on this more in Transfer Window Waffle later on, but it's really, they're crying out for a sporting director. So Paul Pogba, do you think he kind of can be categorised with these two, or do you think he's being misused? There's a lot of debate around Pogba.
Yeah, with Pogba, like, everyone knows what type of player he can be.
Yeah,
We've seen him at the World Cup.
And he did show it for United.
He
in a
did
few
show
games
glimpses
as well.
for United, yeah.
Definitely.
He did show good form early on in the season.
Yeah.
But with Pogba, it's a bit... I think with Pogba, the weird thing is he's one of them players that always needs to be told he's good, always needs a pat on the back.
I think so. I know what you
needs
mean.
full confidence from everyone around him to show how good he is. I don't think when it gets to the nitty-gritty, he'll pull his socks up and play how, like, a player... say a Roy Keane, for example,
that is
would boss
exactly
his
what I
own,
was
would
thinking
boss
of.
the game.
I've heard a lot of talk, especially from United fans, that you need a Roy Keane on the field.
We do, yeah. We need a real leader.
Actually, to
So
be
you
honest,
don't have anyone really like that. There's no real natural leaders that I can think of that stand out.
At all, yeah, in our squad.
No,
there isn't.
Literally, to be honest, I've been saying this for, like, I think the past few days to some of my friends that are Man United fans. I've said I think we should get someone like Roy Keane kind of in the staff. If we can't get them as a player,
So yeah,
get them as
someone with that kind of.
I actually said I wouldn't blame them if they tried to get Roy Keane as like an assistant manager to kind of control that situation.
He's
as
been
well.
massively critical of United. I've seen him talking with Gary Neville and stuff on Sky about how he's just kind of so critical of like Lingard and Pogba, just calling Lingard like an Instagram celebrity rather than actually being a footballer, that kind of thing, which is kind of true in a way. But like, I don't know. I think you're 100% right. They need, whether it's in the dressing room, whether it's in the backroom stuff or on the field, they need someone who is really going to drum into them like how important it is. I think a good question is as well, do you think that it's holding them back? Do you think it's holding Man United back that they have Paul Pogba? Do you think, because everyone's always like, the pressure is always like, they need to make a team, they need to build a team around Pogba, you need to get Pogba to play like the best that he possibly can. Do you think they need to expand things a little bit and kind of look at the bigger picture and balance it out and make sure that the responsibility lies all over the pitch?
Yeah, I think building a team around Pogba would be ideal. I think United fans would love that. I think it would bring the best out of him. I think he needs players that like do the dirty work for him.
Yeah,
I think so,
because he's a luxury player. I'd say he's like a Ozil at Arsenal. People would say he won't put in the hard work. He won't really run a lot. He won't track back.
I've heard that he's literally becoming Man United's Ozil.
Yeah, because
it's the same situation.
If you really watch United and you watch them regularly, you'll see when we lose the ball, Pogba will never won't bust a gut to get back. He'll be jogging or walking.
Yeah.
That's one of the main criticisms, his defensive work rate, and I understand it. But what we all know with Pogba is, on his day, he can produce magic. He could just do magic with a ball at his feet. He is a great talent.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's not his day every day. He doesn't do it every match.
No, and a lot of players are the same. They need to stop. They almost kind of, I feel like Man United fans, not necessarily you two, but like generally on a grander scheme, what I've seen on social media, it's sort of Paul Pogba's seen as this kind of like this sort of god amongst the squad, and it's kind of like if he's not playing well, then everyone else doesn't play well, and like everything's sort of judged around him. Whereas the responsibility has to be across the field. But I completely agree. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with building a team around him, because he is, as you said, that like luxury sort of player. Who was there another? Did you say Lukaku as well?
I said Lukaku this season. Yeah,
yeah.
This season, he just isn't the same player he was last season, or he was showing at Everton. I don't think even what he was best at, his bread and butter, if you want to say, his hold-up play, wasn't even that amazing this season. I think, if anything, Rashford did a better job than him up front.
Yeah, I think so. He doesn't look fit either.
He doesn't look fit at all.
Wasn't Rashford starting ahead of him towards the end of the season?
Yeah, well, once Solskjaer came in, Rashford was starting ahead.
Lukaku was just benched.
Then I think didn't he score against like Tottenham? Rashford, he scored. That goal that won us the game.
I think Lukaku is the epitome of everything that's wrong with United at the moment. They're clearly not fit enough. That is quite clear.
He looks like he's just running through like treacle half the time. Through custard.
I think the problem as well
all over him.
With United, you look at the two nearest rivals, obviously City and Liverpool. The basis of how they play is their work, right? I mean, using Man City as a primary example, Bernardo Silva. He's running back, and then you look at United and they're losing to Wolves in the FA Cup, and he's obviously got this arrogance where he thinks, I'm not defending. Sanchez doesn't defend, Rashford doesn't defend, Pogba doesn't defend. How are you supposed to win a game when you've got 7 Wolves players running at you?
At the moment,
you've got Johnny on one wing, Doherty on the other wing, Martial hasn't tracked back, Lukaku hasn't tracked back. It's just not nice, especially you two as United fans. You must get really frustrated when teams are counter-attacking you.
It's kind of like,
and you've got to rely on Phil Jones and Chris Smalling to defend against 7 players. It's just not. I just can't believe. I can't believe how unfit they are. I think they're one of the lowest for sprints in the Premier League as well.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, Lukaku's the epitome of everything that's wrong in terms of Man United off the ball at the moment. I mean, on the ball, they've not been that great. Off the ball, they've been even worse. They've been so bad tactically, in their fitness levels.
There's no movement in his
legs. You
watch
Lukaku that season when I think he scored 23 in the league for Everton. Look at how thin he is.
I know.
Look how much weight he's put on.
That's the thing. It doesn't look like muscle that he's carrying now.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
It's like he looks like he's running in bootcut jeans. I've heard people say a million times. Yeah. Just 100% right. Just take off your Levi's, get back to your Everton days, and everything could be sorted.
That raw speed as well. He was that quick. He was amazing. Off the spot, he was really fast. And then now, you got players running past him. Like Van Dijk would absolutely murder him in the race. 100%. He just won't get near him. Mm-hmm. So
James Milner as well. James Milner's unbelievable.
You love James Milner, don't you?
Yeah. To be fair,
you want him back at Villa.
I'd happily take him back at Villa if we go up, even if we don't go up. But
he's got another 10 years at the pool left in him, I reckon.
Probably has. I think there's decent cases for all of those candidates. We're going to move on to my one quickly. He's a slightly different one. He's a guy who hasn't really been disappointing on the field, mainly due to the fact that he literally hasn't had any game time. He's a guy who still plays for Villa right now. You probably know this guy is. He's not played a single game for Villa since October 2016.
I think I know who this is.
It's Mika Richards.
Yeah, that's the guy I was thinking of.
Kind of absolutely unbelievable. He's on... I've heard multiple different things about his wages, but basically we'll first just touch on him. Obviously he came through Manchester City, and he was still there for a decent chunk of their time until when they started getting all the oil money through and everything. And he played, during... Pardon me. He played with Aguero, etc. He went out on loan to Fiorentina in, I think, 2014. And then came to Villa in 2015. And he, was played some decent minutes in the Premier League during the season that Villa went down. But since then... he's kind of been shunned by every manager who Villa have gone through. So he hasn't played since October 2016, as I said. The rumours are that he's on 50k a week, and that is our joint highest paid player, alongside Mile Jedinak. At the minute, I believe, is on 50k a week. There's also some reports saying he's on 35k, so I'm not sure which one is true out of those two, but still, it's a lot for a Championship club. Despite the fact we have a higher wage budget than most clubs in the league, it's still a lot to be taking up a wage bill. He hasn't even been involved in a matchday squad since October 2017, when he was on the bench as an unused sub against Middlesbrough in the Carabao Cup. But yeah, it's absolutely incredible. He's had a lot of injuries, so he has been hampered by injuries. But at the same time, he just hasn't really bothered to get back to full fitness. But the thing is, all the reports I've seen is that young players still look up to him. They find him really inspiring. The rest of the Villa squad, the senior squad, really get on with him, and he's still a big part of their kind of togetherness and their sort of attitude. So he's still involved, but at the same time on the pitch he just has not offered a single thing because he's not been playing. So for me it's incredible that he's still here. He is leaving on a free this summer, so finally he'll be out the exit door. The horrible thing is, when we got relegated in 2016, we did have offers coming for him. So West Ham actually offered to take him on loan back to the Prem, and also Orlando City in the MLS also tried to sign him. We turned both of those down, and at the time you would think Mika Richards could be a very decent centre back in the Championship. Obviously won the league with Manchester City. He's played for England as well. I would say he's played for Great Britain at the Olympics, but that was a squad that Marvin Sordell got into, so not really.
George, would he have
any
been
good?
Would he have been? They might offers that you said from was it West Ham?
West Ham, yeah, and Orlando City as well.
Do you think they might have been refused because West Ham would have wanted Villa to pay 50% of his wages?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Because why else would they refuse it? That's the thing I'm thinking. Villa,
I don't really know.
Villa have wanted to get rid of him for ages. I know they have.
Yeah, obviously the season 2015-16 when we got relegated, we finished rock bottom. We had Mika Richards and Jolien Lescott, who at the time, you'd think they're both ex-Man City players, both league winners with Man City, both got England caps. So Joleon Lescott was sort of relatively regular for England at one stage. You would have thought that would be a decent enough centre-back to keep you in the Prem, but they were absolutely shocking. And Villa, still to this day, that season were one of the worst Premier League teams I've seen, as much as it pains me to say it. But obviously he's finally going. What are your guys' memories of Micah Richards? I obviously have not really got any fond memories of him, despite being a Villa player since 2015. He's done literally nothing for us on the field. How do you guys remember Micah Richards?
I remember a Daily Mail article about, would have been 12, 13 years ago, and it was an article, and it was saying the England team in 10 years' time.
Oh, I've seen this one.
Have you seen the article?
I think so.
It's had Micah Richards as not only the centre-back of England, but the England captain. So
wow.
he was always held in high regard. And I remember when he used to play for Man City, he was an absolute tank. He'd tank his way through games. He was big, he used to score goals, good in the air.
Yeah, definitely.
He had that raw speed as well, so if he made a mistake, he could make up for it. But he just seems like one of them modern day footballers who just wants to do his best. He clearly wants to sit on the bench for Villa and get his money.
Yeah.
And it's really ruined his reputation. You'll probably find he'll be playing for someone like Billericay in a few years, like Konchesky and Jamie O'Hara, because these sorts of players who demand so much, you don't end well for them.
Not really.
And you'd imagine he'll drop down the leagues now. How far down is hard to say. To think West Ham come in for him is crazy. I didn't realise that was...
Yeah, I actually only found that out this morning. I don't remember that happening at all. But I mean, he's one of those players, like, if he hadn't been injured and then hadn't fallen down this sort of spiral of constantly just picking up little knocks but also just failing to get up to fitness, it was, as we touched on him before, it was a similar story with Gabby Agbonlahor, where he'd come and play like a few games each season. And I feel like he would always come up against Birmingham and manage to score a goal against them, and that kind of kept him in Villa fans' good books. And I still have loads of fond memories of Gabby Agbonlahor rather. But those two players were on the wage bill for so long and were paid ridiculous amount for a championship team. Agbonlahor obviously went last summer, and Richards going this summer. So
I could see him going to somewhere like China, because they'll pay him for whatever reason.
It wouldn't surprise me as well if he went somewhere like the MLS, or even, as Nick was saying, Australia. A lot of players go down there now, so maybe go into. To be fair, maybe go to somewhere like Melbourne City. They're the Australian team that are owned by Manchester City.
Yeah.
So that link there, that sort of thing. Maybe we'll see that. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. It might have been there where Ross McCormack went. He's another guy who I could put here. He still plays for Villa as well. And he is on loan in Scotland, I think. He had some amazing spells on loan in Australia, and then I was back up in Scotland. But he is, just wasting away on that wage bill. The players we could have signed with that wage bill. But yeah, I mean, hopefully Micah Richards going and maybe Ross McCormack leaving as well can mean that if we do get promoted to the Premier League, we'll have a few an extra little bit on the wage bill left to sign some more players. So Micah Richards, an interesting one, I think. But I think we're going to move on to our next segment. So it's Transfer Window Waffle. We're going to be covering Manchester United, as we said. And I hope we've got some interesting signings. So what we're going to be doing is suggesting some signings for Man United, and then at the end of the segment we'll whittle it down to a 3-man shortlist, and basically between the four of us decide on 3 players who Manchester United should go in for in the summer. So here it is, Transfer Window Waffle. So we are back with another Transfer Window Waffle. As we just said, Manchester United, they are the subject of today's Transfer Window Waffle. Obviously there's some gaping holes in the squad. They've been exposed on too many occasions, some players on stupid wages in there. So I think we're going to do something a little bit different with this Transfer Window Waffle, where obviously we're going to put forward these 3 players who should be signed by the club, but we're also going to be looking at the players who should be leaving. So I think we're going to try and do 3 players to leave as well. And obviously this could help in terms of giving us a little bit more of a budget for the players to bring in. So what I'm going to do is hand over to Lewis and Muse for this bit. We're both going to talk, me and Nick as well, but I'm going to hand it over mainly to you guys. See, from a Man United point of view, who do you think should be signed by Man United?
So with Man United, I think where it should have started was with the manager. It should have started with signing a proven manager who...
I think this is completely spot on.
Who knows what he'll do in the transfer market.
Yeah.
I think, personally, if I was, I don't know, the higher-ups, whoever makes the decisions at United, I would have done everything to get Pochettino in.
Yeah.
And give him a chance.
Would have been ideal.
But now that we've signed Solskjaer, really, I'll say back him. See what he wants to do. See if he's got a plan. And back him in the market. See, because we've done it with a few managers, but we haven't really signed who they've wanted to sign. We've just gone and thrown money at any name and just signed them, and they haven't really been who we've needed. So Mourinho was shouting it last season. We definitely need to sort out our defence. I think we need a right back and 2 centre backs.
Yeah.
Ashley Young at right back. He's done a job, but he's been exposed far too much this season.
He's not like at the level we need him to be as well.
Yeah. He hasn't. He's old. He isn't naturally a right back. He's losing his pace. He doesn't really read the game too well at right back. I don't think he's not the greatest right back you'll ever see.
No.
So definitely that's probably our weakest position right now, a right back.
Yeah.
Our centre backs aren't the greatest in the world. Chris Smalling,
Definitely.
Phil Jones.
It's interesting you should say that, because I think I've been in 2 minds, because obviously there's been a lot of links to a specific right back from the Prem.
Kieran Trippier.
Well, no, I was going to say Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah.
Okay.
But at the same time, I'm in 2 minds. Do you go in for someone like that, or do you pile the pressure on Diogo Dalot to succeed? Is it too early
That's
for
a
him?
good question.
I think we should at least give him a chance.
Because I think the focus should be slightly more on centre back, personally. But obviously, from you're more used to watching every Man United game, so it's more interesting to see your point of view. Whereas I don't watch them necessarily as much as you two do. So
Dalot's definitely shown he's good. He is good. Can he hack the Premier League on a week in, week out basis? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But he is definitely a good player. He could be one for the future. I don't know if it's too soon for him. Someone like Wan-Bissaka has proven this season.
Wan-Bissaka has been one of the best players, I think, under 23 in Europe.
In
maybe
Europe, that's a shout.
Statistically, he's been insane, far above anyone defensively in the Prem this season.
Mm-hmm. He has been a good player this season. Signing him, I don't know how much Crystal Palace will want for him. I think, you know what it is these days? Knowing how much United are willing to spend on anyone. If United come in for a player,
you can double his value.
This
you're
is the
easily
thing.
going to double it.
He's worth 22.5 million.
Palace have asked for 50.
And that's gone up.
On Sky Sports this morning.
50. For me, 50, that's not too bad. If you're going in for... If you've got someone who you're willing to bank on who could be, your first choice right back for maybe the next decade, that's nothing in the current market.
And that's probably still going to go up as well.
Plus,
that's
you're bringing in a
think.
homegrown player who can be added onto that quota. I have heard that apparently Man United have been given a £200 million... Well, Solskjaer's been given a £200 million transfer kitty, if you want. But it would be very Man United to just splash, all of that on 2 big names.
Yeah, it would be. Especially with the names you see who are kind of available right now.
Yes.
Your Bells, your Griezmanns, your Dybalas.
Bale would be a very Man United sort of signing.
Yeah. He would,
I think so.
He would. It would be just bring a big name in, get a lot of money from shirt sales.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe him, risk it. Will he do well? Will he not? Because United are really more about business right now. They're just expanding all over the world.
I mean, that's the thing. It says that Solskjaer's been given this transfer budget, but
it's not Solskjaer that's going to be spending the money.
It's been Ed Woodward who has been spending the money, and he's not a football-minded individual.
Mm-hmm. I think that's
he's
the problem.
A business-minded individual, and they have been calling out for a sporting director. You know, we've seen Arsenal bringing in sporting director. Spurs have had one. Most of the big clubs are now getting on board with the sporting director role, and Man United still haven't done that. And it's something that I think in the modern day sort of football landscape is very important to bridge that gap between, the scouting team and between the manager, and all come to the same conclusion, because there's no joined up thinking at United. It's not, there's no like long-term plan in terms of what sort of squad that they want. It is just kind of let's buy names, and that's a trend that they really need to stop, really, and they just need to start building an actual team, I think.
More smart transfers.
Yeah, 100%. Have you guys got any centre-backs who you think would be, like, ideal? I've got a few. So I've gone for Matthijs de Ligt. Obviously, he would cost an awful lot. 19 and probably, like, ready to go straight in, I would have thought. And I've also gone for Milan Skriniar as well from Inter. Koulibaly, I would say... Yeah. It looks to me like Napoli are just going to try and price any team out of a move. And he is the oldest out of those guys, so I would probably prefer to go for a De Ligt or a Skriniar.
Yeah, 27. I think that's... I think that's going to be the problem. Like, I think they'll want too much considering he's 27.
Skriniar's, I think, early 20s, 22 maybe, 23, something like that. And then De Ligt, I think, is still 19. Have you guys got similar sort of guys, or have you got anybody else?
I've had a look at, like, this is the first time we've done this where there's actually been a lot of rumours.
Yeah, there's been a stupid amount of rumours.
I've had a look through some of them, and I've picked out a couple that have interested me, and De Ligt was one of them as well.
Yeah.
But I find that, I think it's Benfica, the Benfica central midfielder.
All right, yeah.
Felix. I think that is an interesting one, and I think considering Herrera's gone, he would be quite a decent replacement for him.
I've also heard Bruno Fernandes as well from Sporting as a potential like centre mid.
And I think he'd be one of those to actually go and start straight away as well.
Yeah, Yuri Tielemans I've heard as well. But yeah, I mean, I think definitely centre back is one. Do we want to lock in a centre back now to put on this list, or do we want to wait till the end and then just come up with the three? It's up to you guys. I
think the thing is with the centre back is it's money, because how much are they going to want for De Ligt?
Another guy as well is Umtiti from Barca.
That's who I was going to say.
Yeah,
Umtiti.
because obviously you wouldn't think that you'd be able to get a player like that out of Barcelona, but he has had some injury problems. If they do bring in Matthijs de Ligt, obviously they've got that link with Ajax, and they've already brought in De Jong, and they're looking apparently at Andre Onana as well, the goalkeeper. Maybe he will go to Barca, and then maybe that will open the door for a move from Titi. But yeah, I mean, I think centre back's definitely a position. Do you have anybody else, Nick? Any other suggestions for a centre back? Or
no, I've focused with the right back and left back, because I know they're out of position, so I've focused predominantly on them, really.
So do we want to wait until the end and then come up with the three suggestions?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So which are the fullbacks that you've gone for then, Nick?
Right, one completely defeats what I said earlier, that Man U are buying names, because one is a massive name, and the other one is an upcoming defender. So the first one I'll say is Dani Alves.
Wow, that's quite a United.
The only reason I'm saying it is because I can see it happening. That's all. I can imagine
realistic. Get
him on a free.
That is worrying.
They're going to stick him on 150 grand a week. He'll play for 1 year, and he'll probably go to China or something.
And beyond
it's not a case of want it to happen. I can just see it happening. So that was more foreshadowing than any logical sense. But I know his contract runs out in the next few weeks, months. So Man United written all over him.
I think he definitely has.
The other one is a left back for Benfica, Alex Grimaldo.
All right, yeah.
Grimaldo is a player who Barcelona held in high regard.
Yeah,
didn't go on. He left Barcelona B and signed for Benfica for 1.5 mil. He's got 12 assists this season.
Got a lot out of him for that price. Yeah, it's
4 goals. He's a Spanish fullback. He's the epitome of a modern day left back. He gets forward. He can defend as well. I mean, I've watched him a few times this season.
Yeah.
And Benfica aren't really a team you associate with the defending side because I think they won a game earlier this season 10-0, didn't they? So they're a team who,
I think they did. Yeah.
with the quality of the Portuguese league, they're attacking a lot of the time. But in the Champions League is where they probably do get caught out.
Yeah.
But Grimaldo's a good defender. He's a good player. His value's not as high as you'd think. He's valued at 25 mil.
I don't think you'd be looking at much more than that, really, to actually bring him in.
No, I mean, fullbacks are crucial for United, I think. I think that for too long now, they've had defenders in positions that probably 2 or 3 years ago they should have left. Valencia springs to mind.
Definitely.
Ashley Young. And Dalot looked... I've spoken really highly about Dalot. I think Dalot's a really good player. And I think he is the left back the United need. He could even be part of a 3-5-2 and be a left wing back
because he's shown his speed and everything, and he can even he can play on both fullback positions, I think. And then I think he's proven to be able to play virtually as a winger as well.
Yeah,
just because
his
of
play
his
going
pace
forward is amazing. I'll say his end product's quite good. His cross is good. Yeah, he's got pace to beat a man 1-on-1. He's proven that he's good going forward. Defensively, he's quite solid. A wing-back is a shout for him. I think he'd fit in nicely as a right or left wing-back.
He seems quite a sensible player, I'd say.
Yeah.
He doesn't rush on the ball, and he's the shining light in this season for United.
I was going to say, I remember when I first saw him playing, I was just thinking, like, this is exactly what the club needs. This is, like, anti-everything that Mourinho was trying to do. Or that ended up doing at the club, and it's just kind of like a breath of fresh air in that club.
He'll still take credit for signing him though, won't he? In a few years' time,
probably
like
will
he always does.
One fullback who has actually been linked is Thomas Meunier from PSG. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think that's a good one? He's always been one of those players for me who's never really been like...
How old is he?
I don't know, that's the thing. I think he's in his...
27, aren't he?
Yeah, like...
He was good for Belgium at the World Cup, to be fair.
That's true. Where did he play? Did he play as like a wing back or something?
Played right back, didn't he?
Yeah, because I remember Martinez playing like a slightly weird position formation, and he played Meunier like different to where he plays at PSG.
Did they play 3-5-2 and they had Meunier on the right side of the five?
Who did they? Oh, they played someone else as a... Was it like Torgan Hazard as a wing back or something?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, strange. But he's the only fullback apart from Wan-Bissaka who I think's been linked. There's also Achraf Hakimi, who I think's had an incredible season at Dortmund. He's obviously on loan from Real Madrid.
Have they not got him on a 2-year loan though?
I think it might be a 2-year loan, but I have heard rumours that he might be going back to Madrid this year. But I think it is a 2-year loan, so it's going to be interesting to see what actually happens there. Have you got positions further up the field as well that you feel need strengthening? I've highlighted right wing. Does anyone else sort of agree with that?
Yeah, I think right wing's a shout. I've got defensive mid as well.
Yeah. Go for it.
I've got Thomas Partey at Atletico Madrid.
He's a link. He's actually a rumour that I've seen as well. Yeah.
I think Partey. I remember watching him a few years ago, and I said to my brother, I said, "This guy's rubbish." And ever since that day, he has been amazing. I watched him at the weekend play. I played somebody really average. It might have been a couple of weeks ago, and he was amazing. I think he's next to a player now. They've got Rodri, and Rodri looks like he's going to be the next big thing at Atletico. So probably Partey seems a United player for me. Seems a player who's available. Atletico have said that they'll listen to offers for him.
Yeah, he's not one of those players who is kind of like seen as unsellable to the club.
No,
so like it's fairly realistic, I think. Yeah,
and he's kind of played a bit time role the last few years, but this season he's really come on. And to be fair, you won't find anyone with a better right foot than him. His goals he's scored this season have been amazing. So United need that. United have got at the moment. They're trying to walk the ball into the net. They're crossing the ball in and it's not working. They need some quality outside the box. I remember Pereira scored that goal against Southampton, and it obviously was one of those goals. Pereira's not going to do that every week. Pereira's not a Man United player. I feel Partey is. I think Partey is a really good player for Madrid. And in the middle, United need some solidity in there. They need a player who's going to... They thought Fred was going to be that player who'd grab the game by the scruff of the neck, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah,
Fred has been a player who's really struggled to come in. So Partey for me would be a player who would go in there and he'd do a job for United. Is he going to be important for them going forward? Who knows? But he's a player who I think offers something different. He's he's a wall in front of the defence, and he's available. I think availability in the current market is so important because you'll get the realistic price for them.
Yeah, definitely.
So I looked at Partey and I thought the price was fair.
I think it's fair. Yeah, I think that would be sensible for them. Any other positions, you two guys? Wingers, sort of attackers as well. I've got a few.
I think right wing.
Right wing,
is a position we'd need to strengthen in.
Aren't we linked with? I don't know if he can play right wing, but Daniel James from Swansea.
Yeah,
we're meant to be heavily linked.
Signed him.
Isn't it like
we've agreed terms
15 million or something like
that? Along them
he's a good player. I think he's been defined a little bit by that performance against Man City when he sprinted virtually the entire pitch. He's very quick. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've seen he's the other player that I've seen linked this morning. Obviously, constantly being linked is Jadon Sancho from Dortmund. Again, a really good shout, but will cost an arm and a leg for Man United. Will that phase them? You don't know because they're still an incredibly rich club. And another link for a slightly kind of cheaper alternative to Jadon Sancho's Nicolas Pepe from Lille, who I think would be a really good, interesting one for them. But also, they've got a player on the right wing in their ranks already who I think could be ready to be sort of slowly put into this first team, and that is Tahith Chong. I don't know how much you guys know. You probably have seen him firsthand a little bit more than I have, but I was looking at some of his highlight reels and things like that on YouTube this morning and just seeing how well he's doing. He's a very versatile player. He's proven to be a goal threat. He cuts inside an awful lot, sort of similar to Ashley Young in his prime. Cuts inside off that flank and manages to get on the goal tally quite a lot. And he's also a very unselfish player as well, in terms of he's always keen to pass the ball to someone who's in a better position than he is to score and to progress play a little bit more. So do you think this is time for Man United to help, to put their youth in, maybe Angel Gomez, Mason Greenwood, those sort of players, and Tahith Chong? Do you think it's a time to give them an opportunity, or do you think they need stability?
There are academy players at United who are good, very good footballers. Mason Greenwood is someone I've seen a lot of, and he looks a very promising young player. He's both-footed, so you won't really be able, his weaker foot, I think, is his left foot, but is just as strong as his right foot. He can score with both feet. His awareness in the box is amazing. He gets a lot of goals for the youth team. I think someone like him should get a shout going into the first squad.
Is this Greenwood?
Greenwood,
He played against Cardiff, didn't he?
Yeah, he's got something like, for the youth team, I think he's got 15 goals in 13 games or something stupid like that.
He is a good player.
He's only 17 though, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, that's the thing. He's a bit young.
Yeah, because I've heard sort of mixed feelings. I've heard everyone says obviously that he's an incredible young prospect, but a lot of people say he's not ready. A lot of people say that he is ready. Whereas I think Tahith Chong's more of more towards that polished product. Obviously, you put him in the Premier League, you can't really say exactly how he's going to perform.
That's true.
But are there any other positions? Anyone saying striker or any more in the centre of the park? You two?
I find it interesting that we're linked with James Rodriguez.
I've seen him linked with Wolves as well. He's been linked with Wolves.
I don't know how I
George
feel
Mendes
about
links.
Nah, I think central midfield is somewhere we need to strengthen, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially with Herrera going. I'm irate about that.
Herrera and Pereira.
We let him go.
I think Andreas Pereira's got off as well. So
we need to.
He's more a peripheral player, but still.
To be honest, I think Scott. I don't think people really rate Scott McTominay that well, and I think he's actually a bit better than people think.
I think he's not bad, but I don't think he's a United player.
I think everyone was sort of singing his praises under Mourinho when he started getting put into the first team and things, because he was that academy boy who was kind of.
Yeah, and United love an academy player.
Yeah, exactly. And then they get linked to they get compared to Scholes or whoever, or they get
greats
compared to the greats. But he's not seen. I think Mourinho played him at centre back a couple of times, and he's just kind of not been as in the limelight recently. But Who are your centre midfield options, if you've got any written down?
So I haven't really written any down for central midfield, mainly because I don't really know who we should go for. I think we need our central midfield now. You've got Fred in there. You've got McTominay. You've got Matic who's getting on. Who else have we really got? Pogba who plays there. And that's about it really.
What do you think about Rabiot? Because I think
would he come on? Would he be a free? I think he's
on
contract,
I think
isn't
he could be on a free.
Because he's not signed a pre-contract and he's leaving PSG.
Yeah, get back at PSG.
It's literally Rabiot. Like any big team would benefit from having him. You know, Barcelona, Madrid, Juve.
I think the only problem is
his attitude.
His attitude.
Yeah,
I think that is the big risk you are taking.
He's got horrible. And
if he comes in and he still has that attitude, it's going to get worse.
With United's attitude in the dressing room right now, you don't need a player like that.
No, it might make things a little bit worse.
The worry I have is, though, it's a bit too tempting because he's on a free. I could just see them doing that.
I mean, it's the thing. Like, if you buy him on a free and he, I don't know, up to my voice. Then, if you buy him on a free though and it doesn't come off, then you can still sell him and get a profit.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's whether you think that it's worth doing or not, really. So I think what we'll say now is, what position do you want to lock in as someone to put on this shortlist then first?
Well, we have to have a centre back.
Yeah,
I think.
Definitely.
So who are the names then? Umtiti, Skriniar, De Ligt, Koulibaly maybe. Yeah. Who do you guys think is the? I keep realising I'm saying you guys constantly, but who should we put in there as the centre back, or do we need to?
De Ligt
debate
would be a silly choice because it looks like he's moved to Barca's all but done.
Yeah, I think so, probably.
So that would be in Van Zan United when he's probably going to sign a 5-year deal at Barca.
I mean, if you can get him, he's probably the best option because he does seem like the finished product at 19, which is pretty incredible. But
did you know something about
here we go.
Matthijs de Ligt?
Yeah.
Barca were going to sign him a few years ago, but they didn't because of how overweight his dad was. So they've said, we can't take a risk on this player because he's got a similar... If you look at Matthijs de Ligt, he's a very big player.
Yeah.
And they said, we can't take the risk on him because it looks like in a few years' time you're going to be overweight. So a few years ago they didn't sign him because of the body type of his dad. So there you go.
I was going to say, if he goes to another club now...
and he gets really fat, it will be very funny. But, he's a good player, so hopefully he does keep himself in shape.
Hope so. Yeah. Another little story, a little hint towards our future potential story time segment.
Story time.
So who do you think will be the centre back we should put in?
I think Skriniar's a good shout.
Yeah, I like Skriniar.
Because he's I feel like he will be expensive, but he won't be like Koulibaly price. Yeah. And he's also young, 22, 23. So Skriniar is our first one.
Yeah, Skriniar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about number 2? Who's the second guy? What position, first of all, do you think we need to put on the shortlist?
I think we could go fullback.
Yeah. Who do you reckon is the best option as a fullback?
I think it would probably the only one I can really think of is Wan-Bissaka. That's the one that stood out to me.
I think Wan-Bissaka's the perfect one in terms of his age, his homegrown status as well, which is, he's not going to be a drink water type signing. He's going to be an actual homegrown player who's worth having on your books. Plus, he's also been one of the best. He's been the best performing right back in the Prem this season. One of the best in Europe as well. He's just shown incredible stats for his age. He only moved into the right back position less than 2 years ago because he was a right winger before that. So to have those sort of defensive numbers already is pretty amazing. So should we put Wan-Bissaka in? Does anyone else have any other shouts? Or do you think Wan-Bissaka's
as a fullback? I'd say Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah, so Skriniar, Wan-Bissaka, and who's the third guy then? Difficult.
It's difficult.
Are we going for a centre mid, central defensive mid? Are we going for a right winger? It's mad.
Yeah, United need more than 3 players.
Yeah, I feel like we should extend this and do 6 or something. But
we could probably get away with doing 10 or something.
Yeah, pretty much. Tumbleweed.
I literally don't. It's so difficult.
It's really difficult.
Really difficult
because it's the longest pause we've ever had, I think. But
there's a lot of players who are who are linked to United, and
Yeah.
they're probably. I mean, look at Bale, won't happen, but he's linked. Delict won't happen. Dybala's one I could see happening.
I have got him written down actually.
Yeah,
Apparently, I
could see
think
Dybala.
weren't we trying to do a swap with Dybala or something?
Well, he'll be a free, so you'd be losing business doing a swap.
The thing is with Dybala, like he's got that versatility, but he's got a position where he plays a lot better. Like because of Ronaldo coming into Juve, he's been pushed out to the right wing, and his numbers aren't as good as they previously have been, but they're still relatively sort of solid. So he does have that versatility, but I think a few Juve players are kind of a little bit disheartened by Ronaldo being there and kind of getting all the attention and everything being around him. So yeah, Dybala I think is a good shout. Could that be a late shout or
Felix? Is a good shout because
Felix, yeah, is a good shout.
I think United the last few years have been guilty of buying players probably when they're a bit past it. Falcao, Di Maria, Ibra. So it'd be nice to take a risk on a player at a young age and just hope he's the sort of player that
not really seen that.
People think he got. It's very early days for him. He's a young lad, but he's held in high regard. Benfica do have a way of churning out really good players. Well, obviously, I've spoken about Grimaldo as well. I think Felix is really. I don't know how good he is. It could become really, really early days.
Yeah,
it could be. We could listen to this in a few years ago. He's playing in the third division of Portugal, but who knows?
Yeah,
I'd be willing to take a risk on him. He looks very good, full of potential, tall, fast, scores you a goal. Seems a Man U player in waiting for me.
How do you two Man United fans feel about that? Do you think?
Now that I've just looked at his record, I agree.
Yeah,
I think he's clearly showing potential. I know it's the Portuguese league he's playing in, but it's
a lot of good players coming out of Portugal.
Exactly.
He is a talented player. I think from what I've seen from him in Europe, were they in the Europa League this season?
Yeah,
I think there was a game where he scored a brace or a hat-trick.
Scored a hat-trick against Frankfurt.
Who was it who said that Benfica were the hardest team to play against, despite the fact they played against like much better teams? I can't remember who that was.
So.
It's not really a story worth telling if I can't remember. But do we think Felix could be the third option for us?
I'd say so.
Yeah?
To take a risk on a player who,
So we'll go for Milan Skriniar, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and also
João
Felix. Completely lost his name then. But so those three guys. Do get us on kickbacksportspod@gmail.com. That's our email. Leave a comment or go to Instagram and Twitter at kickback_pod. We'd love to hear what you think about these three suggestions. I'm just going to quickly go around everyone. I'm just going to spring this on you. 3 players that Man United need to sell this summer. Nick, go for it. Just quickly.
Fred, Ashley Young, and Phil Jones.
Lewis?
Oh my God.
3 players, Man United, out the door.
Off the top of my head, I can only think of 2. I think Sanchez, we need to get rid of him. And another player I would go for is this is probably going to be controversial. I'll probably go Mata. And I would agree with Nick and say Ashley Young. I think he's a bit too old. I think it's time we moved on.
Yeah.
From him.
What about you, Muse?
I'd say definitely Sanchez, just to free up some wage bill money. 100% Fred also. He's probably been our biggest flop. The third one's a bit, I'm not too sure about, because there's a lot of players we could get rid of.
It's kind of like, I feel like it's those 2 guys, and then the rest of the squad's kind of like, it wouldn't be the end of the world if you got rid of them, but at the same time it would be fine if you keep them. I
think with like our centre backs, Phil Jones, Chris Smalling, I'd even say Eric Bailly. I was thinking of Eric Bailly. The only centre back I'd keep right now at United is probably Victor Lindelof. I'm actually going to say Sanchez, Fred, and Eric Bailly because I think Eric Bailly has the highest sort of sell-on price. Yeah, I think he probably does. A team of, I'm trying to think of what sort of team might go in for Eric Bailly, but like a kind of
struck me as an Inter Milan player,
or Inter Milan,
player.
Kind of like a Europa League team who are knocking at the door of trying to get into the top kind of 2 or 3 in their league. So those are our suggestions. Do tell us what you think of those. So we're going to move swiftly on to the final bit. We've got a couple of questions from fans. We're not going to spend too much time because we have gone on for quite a while now. So the first question is, how far can Leicester go next season under Brendan Rodgers? That is from Jake Griffiths, who hosts the Commentary Box podcast. So we'll leave their details down below. Rodgers at Leicester, what are your guys' thoughts?
I think anything between 6th and 9th would be a good season.
Yeah, I think so.
I think the Premier League is split into two. I think you have the Premier League, the Premier League, which will be the top, 6 teams, and you have the next bit. Wolves have won the Premier League of the bottom half this season.
Oh,
so
definitely.
Kind of like tier 1 and tier 2.
Yeah, because
the
top teams have so much going in their favour. They have so much money, so much advertising rights. It's really, last season Liverpool's games, I think 32 of them were on the telly, which is ridiculous. So same for Man U, Chelsea, Arsenal, City. So I'd say Leicester. They'll lose Tielemans, they won't get him, so they've got to find another player. Vardy's getting older, so Rodgers has got a big summer ahead of him, but anything between 6th and 9th would be 6th a bonus, 7th, 8th, 9th, good season. Yeah.
So I'll hand over to Lewis for the next one. Best Premier League fullback of the last 5 years.
Oh my goodness.
That is from James Rushton, who's a creator of 7500 to Holt, the Aston Villa blog, so do have a little look at that. We'll leave the link down below. Best Premier League fullback.
Last 5 years.
It's a difficult one, this one.
If I'm totally honest, I can't really on the spot. I really can't think of a name.
It is very difficult.
I've got one. Azpilicueta.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
That's a very decent shout.
Man,
it's very hard actually.
I seriously cannot come up with an answer.
What about Ezequiel Charlotto from? No, I'm joking. We'll move on to the next one. I'll hand this one over to Muse. So, where might / should Mbappe move for a new challenge?
For a new challenge.
This is from Chris, who is Lewis's mate.
Yeah. He
sent me about 7 questions.
To be honest, I told him, I was like, we don't get many questions, and he was like, I've just sent in a load of questions.
Most of the time, it's normally like my dad's question on here, that's it.
Oh yeah, well, at least, you could probably use some of the other questions. Like next week
we'll do it next week. So where do you reckon Mbappe should be going?
Mbappe could go anywhere, I think. But, personal opinion, I think he should stay at PSG. He's just got there. He's probably their best player. I'd say he's better than Neymar, so he's their best player at the club.
I think so.
Yeah, I think what his challenge should be, instead of looking for a new challenge, try to win the Champions League with PSG, because they've definitely got the team.
Yeah. But I think so.
I don't know what they're missing. It's probably the mentality. It's probably like not just flood forward all the time.
I feel like it's one of those things. It's a bit of a cliche, but like because there's not a rich club history and a badge to play for, and it is all kind of money driven. Mm-hmm. There's less of a personal reason to go and try as hard as you can for a club like that.
Yeah. But
I think Mbappe is the most expensive player in the world now in terms of his value. Probably better than Neymar, I would say. Mm-hmm. So this is the final question. So Lewis and Nick, what do you think about Mbappe? Do you reckon staying at PSG should be his priority? Obviously, he's been linked with Real Madrid. He's been, I think, pretty much just linked with Real Madrid, to be fair, since leaving Monaco and joining PSG. So, what do you feel about him?
I think for now, just stay at PSG because he is quite young. Yeah. And if he can achieve more at PSG, then move on. I think, and I think the problem is now for someone like Mbappe, it would be too easy for him to go to a Man City and a Barcelona, which I think it said in the post I was sent about it, he's open to a new challenge. And
yeah, I think I heard that.
I wouldn't really see him going to Barcelona.
I can't see anyone
as a new challenge.
I can only see Mbappe going to Real Madrid. I can't see any club signing him apart from Real Madrid. I don't know why. It's just a vibe that I've got. I think they still.
I think all the big clubs are going to be linked with him.
Yeah, Madrid still haven't replaced Ronaldo properly,
and they've just signed Hazard as well.
Yeah, pretty much. And also Benzema needs replacing in the long term as well. So I don't think he should move yet. I think PSG could be really good to help him. I think Thomas Tuchel's a great manager, like not necessarily suited to PSG at the minute, but I think he's really good at getting the best out of young players. Obviously, he's a different kind of breed to the young players that Thomas Tuchel's kind of used to. But yeah, I think it's the best option to stay. Do you think the same, Nick? Just stick around for a little bit longer, or?
My opinion is Real Madrid haven't had we growing up we've got used to Madrid bringing in Galacticos.
Yes.
Beckham, Owen, Ronaldo, Bale would be their last Galactico, I suppose. Modric to a degree. Mbappe's a Galactico and he's a big signing. He's a player who you can imagine Madrid will break the bank for. I'd like to see him go to Madrid. He's not getting anything out of playing domestically in France. He's probably 12 games a season is where he's probably maximising his potential.
Yeah.
So I'd like him to leave. I think PSG, they were foolish to spend that much money on a player, so I'd love him to go somewhere else. PSG spent 300 million on 2 players. That's not the way modern football should be, so I'd love him to leave. And if Hazard goes there as well, which is looking highly likely, in one window Madrid will have 2 of the best players in the world.
I think so.
Watch Madrid win the Champions League next season.
Early shout. I think that's a great point to end on. So thanks to you 3. Any final words from you? Anyone want to chip in with a final comment or anything like that? I think that's a good enough final comment, to be fair.
Well, usually this is where you or Nick take a shot at me. So I'm just
go ahead, Nick. What's your Man United slam for the week?
I think we've spoke about them enough. We'll talk about something a bit more interesting next week.
Yeah, definitely. So
I'll give you that. That was good.
Yeah, that's you're not even worth talking about. There we go. There's a slam, sort of.
And that's why everyone talks about us.
Yes. So thank you for listening. Thanks to Muse as well for joining us for this one today. So gone through our contacts too many times already, so have a little look at the side of your screens or down in the description for those. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next week.